Hey everybody, thank you so much for joining me for another episode of 10 Minute Tuesday. If you have not already, please like, share, and subscribe. In this episode, I got my guy Alex Rigaud in the building. Alex, what's going on, man?
Hey, Sekou, thank you for having me.
Hey, appreciate you taking time out, man. So we've done a number of 10 Minute Tuesdays, so let's go ahead and dive into it. So Alex, go ahead and introduce yourself to the people.
Sure. My name is Alex Rigaud. I am the VP of Innovation over at Hitachi Solutions Americas. Basically, I am the mad scientist behind all of our AI initiatives that are happening here, leveraging the Microsoft tech stack.
Wow. So VP of Hitachi, big company, doing a lot of things, but at a certain point you had to get your start. So what really compelled you to get into data to begin with?
So what compelled me to get into data was actually a long time ago, looking back now, almost 20 years ago, being asked, why are we having so many issues within the infrastructure of a data center? And that led me to, okay, what's going on? How do we collect sensor data for the temperatures? How do we collect CPU utilization? How do we collect job times? And when the initial beginnings of data warehouses were being built, like what was taking so long on the jobs that were causing maybe processing to take longer, so on and so forth. So trying to troubleshoot those issues as a IT help desk person led me to really figure out, okay, how important is data? And then I realized, oh, it's very important when it comes to every aspect of any company.
Wow. So, okay. So I have a question because I'm curious because I've never heard anybody say that from a help desk perspective. I've always heard it like the data analyst, engineer, scientist, and everything. And so think about technology now, the stack and everything that we have now. How much easier is it for us to access all those IT hubs, all those different insights versus when you first started?
Oh, it's a lot easier now compared to when I first started because when I first started, this again, I'm gonna date myself. This was in the late '90s, early 2000s. I had to get permission from the network administrator, the DB administrator, the enterprise admin, the AD domain admin, so many different people, and then CIOs, directors, just to get the access. But then when we tried to figure out how do we get the data out, it was trying to a bunch of us going around going, well, maybe if we pull it in through this SQL table. Okay, we got into the SQL table. Oh wait, this one's an Oracle. How the hell are we gonna make this all tie in together? Well, we'll just use Excel. That works. All right, let's pull into an Excel file. And so, compared to back then, where now I just basically go, all right, pull up the Power BI dashboard or this Tableau dashboard or this QuickSight dashboard. It's a lot easier.
Wow, that's so cool. That's awesome. Like, I'm glad I was able to ask that because I came up, like I say, later, right? I'm in here about 10 years, but I feel like things are easier to a certain extent for me to be able
Yeah.
to connect to and pull in and get insights versus some of the old days. So, not on the list of questions, but I had to ask it while I had an
Yeah.
opportunity.
Oh, yeah, no worries, no worries.
Awesome.
It's always fun reflecting back because now with my team just now, we're talking about different APIs we have to build out for one of our data consolidation platforms. And looking through it, we're like, okay, we're at 50 APIs. We're gonna need to be at 400 by the end of July. We're on track to hit that mark. And I'm like, back in the day, we weren't even thinking about 50 APIs. We're thinking about, can we just get one thing to work properly, one connection to work properly? One ODBC connection. Does it work? Yes. All right,
Yes.
great. Move on to the next.
I love it. All right. So very knowledgeable VP of Hitachi. You've done a lot of different things, but at a certain point, I'm sure you had to get a job or had a job that you didn't like. So thinking about that, what's been your least favorite job to date? And it doesn't necessarily have to be data related.
Oh, yeah. Hands down, my least favorite job to date was when I was working as a bouncer in DC. Just because it was enjoyable, but the hours plus being a student athlete was challenging because late nights and then having to be up early for practice and then for classes and
Whoa.
stuff. It was definitely, a challenge.
Wow. Yeah. So late night grind, 2, 3 hour nap, get up in the morning, lift, run,
Yeah.
school. All,
Yep.
that's brutal.
Yeah. And I
Oh,
had I had the joy of being a personal project for John Thompson Sr. So if I was messing up on the court or at a game, he made it clear
yeah.
that you got to focus, and it's like, yeah, I have a job too.
Yeah. Wow. Oh my goodness. That's crazy. That's crazy. Um, I'll ask different questions on that later off schedule. But that's cool. I didn't know you hooped. All right. So thinking about the journey. So there's a philosophy that I like to embrace. It's called fail forward. Right. Everything that we do, you don't necessarily fail. You just learn going forward. So thinking about that, what would you consider your biggest failure, and what did you learn from that experience?
Oh, wow. My biggest failure would definitely would most likely be when we're trying to do a massive enterprise architecture revamp for a major pharmaceutical firm. And, we had everything mapped out to a T. We had every piece of real estate from a data and application infrastructure perspective mapped out. And the one thing that we all neglected, I especially neglected, was to confirm all the account access, and that what we had listed were all the accounts that were being used across the landscape. And as you all know, you have your system admin accounts, you have your service accounts. You guaranteed there's at least one or two, if not a dozen, personal accounts that someone plugged in somewhere and never got documented, and that's what ended up being, the fail point for us. And it was a learning experience. As I told the team, I was like, focus on, okay, what's the issue? How do we fix it? And then let's document where we had these issues so that we can address them, and then make sure going forward, any similar type of project, we look out for this, and we look out for these sort of connections where there may be a personal account related or someone's username related to it versus a system or service account. Um, and that was, yeah, that was a challenge, mainly because we ended up being slipping by almost a week in our timeline. We had to make up ground, but it was, push start, and it's like, okay, wait, failure.
Yeah.
Okay, where to go? All right, start up again, go, fail. All right, start again. And it's like, we could, my friend, my team kept saying it was like a whack-a-mole game. I was like, let's do whack-a-mole. Let's get everyone grab a hammer, walk out of this thing, and just do it.
Wow. Yeah. So those some of those lessons, right? That are awful going through it, but you never forget what you
You never
felt
forget
during
it.
that.
And it always reminds me that when someone tells me, yep, where everything is well documented, I always ask them, are you sure? Do you have every aspect written down? Do you have every account written down? Do you have every access written down? Do you have every connection written down? Is it recorded and documented in a way that, so and so at the front desk, in case there's an outage, they can take that playbook and run with it if you have like
Wow.
a disaster recovery scenario or something like that. And this is, in this case, that's what it was. It was around disaster recovery. How do we make sure that the business keeps on going, and that someone that has zero IT knowledge can go in, push a bunch of keys, enter a bunch of usernames and passwords, and make sure everything keeps on running, in the absence of any of the actual staff being there.
That's fantastic, and something that you gave me a reminder that I need to start doing better at. Like, how can whatever I'm working on make sure that someone behind me or who I'm giving it to, right, can work on it.
Yeah.
So thanks for the reminder, even just in this conversation. It's fantastic. All right, so the target audience that I like to say I go after are people who are just starting out in data, or they're trying to break into data. And so thinking about that, what's one piece of advice you give someone who's just starting out in their career?
Ask questions. Do not be afraid to ask questions. Do not be ashamed to ask questions. Even right now, at my point in my career, my team cracks up at the number of questions I ask. And most of the times, it's because I know the question is out there with someone else. I'm going to ask it because I know they may be too ashamed or too afraid to ask the question. Even though I tell everyone, feel free to ask. And if you're not sure or you're not certain, ping it to me. I'll ask it. It doesn't matter what you think, because guaranteed there's at least one other person in that discussion, in that meeting, in that group that has the exact same question or something close to it. Just ask it. Don't be afraid, because the more questions you ask, the better off you will be. Never make assumptions, get the clarification, get the education. I mean, for me, it's always been, I've been blessed to have leaders who literally have asked me, if you don't know, it's okay, but let's figure out how you get the answer. I mean, and when I was, first starting out, I used to tell people, I'm not sure, I may not know, but I will get you the answer. I'll get the answer for you. So always ask questions, because we never stop learning. It's the
You
reason why I
know,
never put expert in my title or on my LinkedIn or anything that's related to me. I'm always learning.
I love that. I love that. And I like the empowerment you give for people to say, I don't know, but I'll figure it out. Because I feel like, especially I think, because I'm relatively younger, what have you, I think there's
Mhm.
pressure on our end, whether it's social media or whatever. Like, you have to be the expert to understand whatever it is that you're breaking out. You have to have this internal feeling. And
Yeah.
it's okay to be like, yo, I don't know.
An expert means you are a knower of everything and anything.
Yeah.
If you are, I'm gonna tell you right now, y'all doing the wrong job.
Yeah.
You're not really doing a great job of saying that you're an expert. It's okay to learn. It is actually better to learn and say that I need to go find this out. And those who are leaders need to give people that grace. If you're a manager, make sure you give your people that grace that they have that opportunity to learn and ask those questions and gain the knowledge. Just like you as a manager or as a people leader or as a VP or a innovator, you had to start somewhere. Remember where you started from. That's why I always remember. I went from event management into IT. I asked a lot of questions when I switched over, and I
Wow.
still do to this day. There's nothing wrong with asking questions. If anyone says that you're stupid for asking questions, they are the ones who actually are stupid, not you.
Awesome. Awesome. Love that. That was great, man. That's great advice. All right, Alex, tell me about the most influential people in your life and how they made an impact on you.
Most influential people in my life have been definitely a number of my leaders that I've worked for. Liz Theophil, former CTO for Novartis Pharmaceuticals. Didi Haas, who I work for right now at Hitachi Solutions America. She's our COO. These two women are just incredible women to have worked for. Liz, being um, a woman of African descent, working her way up through the ranks of various Fortune 500, 100, Fortune 50 companies to be a C-level executive, and having the uh, courage to give me an opportunity, because there are times where I definitely open my mouth when I should have. But to have that, to give me the opportunity to work for her and work with her, as she would remind me, on various initiatives. Um, I would also, in my current lead, Didi. Didi has given me a tremendous opportunity here at Hitachi. I cannot thank her enough, and to be part of one of the most diverse leadership teams I've ever encountered, both from a minority and uh, representation from all genders. It's been incredible. I would say the two other people who have been very influential in my life are my parents, both former investment bankers who in the 80s, 70s, and 80s, people of color in the banking system in New York City. Not easy.
Ooh.
My mother made it to be president of Chemical Bank. My father was a VP at Merrill Lynch. They set a high bar for my
Wow.
siblings and I. And every time I think this is hard, I just stop and go, yeah, no, it ain't. It ain't. I was like, no, no. Compared to what they were dealing with in the 70s and 80s, no, it's not. This ain't hard. This is easy compared to that. Um, yeah, so those are the ones who really had a tremendous amount of influence on my life and on my career. Always keeping me, and I would say I'll wrap it up with my uncle, who always reminds me to stay humble. And no matter how much success you have, never forget the people who helped get you to where you are. So I'm always a people advocate. I'm always pushing for those who work with me. I don't say they work for me; they work with me. My team
Yeah.
knows this. I tell them accountability is a two-way street. I mess up, hold me accountable, and they love doing that now because I give them that permission. I love it because it reminds me that when you make a commitment to do something, you have to live up to it. If you have to reset the expectation, reset the expectation. Don't be afraid to have to reset. A lot of people don't do that. And that's one thing my uncle used to always tell me is like, if you think you're not going to make it in time, don't wait until the last minute. Unlike wine, bad news does not get better with age. Go ahead and tell the person that, hey, I'm going to need X, Y, Z more time to get this done. So that way you reset the expectation. You may take, some, a hit in terms of, being able to complete the job on time, But if you exceed the expectation in what you deliver, that will more than make up for the fact that you had to push back a timeline. That definitely has been true in my career.
Wow. This is great. I'm gonna get this on record. I don't normally do this, but by far this has been one of my favorite episodes. I've gotten so many nuggets out of this quick 10-minute conversation. Man, Alex, you're a super sharp dude. Thank you so much. Last question, where can listeners find you at online?
They can find me on LinkedIn. Feel free to add me on LinkedIn. Also, I am just starting up my Substack uh, listing, or I guess I don't want to say blog, but a Substack post.
Yeah.
I just started up this weekend. I started my first post. It will be published this coming week. Actually, I should have it
Awesome.
wrapped up.
Great, great. Well, Alex, man, thank you so much for taking time out to record. This was great.
No, thank you, Seiko. Really do appreciate you and your time today. Thank you, everyone, for listening in. Sorry if I rambled, but it's one of the things when you're older.
No, it was awesome. It was awesome. And then, as I said in the beginning, if you haven't already, please like, share, and subscribe. And we'll talk to y'all next week. Y'all have a great day.